Greetings, everyone. P. Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Ranking the Albums here on this Sunday. Hope you're all having a great weekend. In the co-captain's chair, once again, joining me, Mr. Grant Arthur from Grant's Rock Warehouse and the Contrarians.
There you go. Hey, thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
I'm coming. It's this is almost like a sequel to one we did 3 or 4 weeks ago, right?
Yeah. Well, if you're going to cover Tommy Shaw, for crying out loud, you need to give Dennis some props too.
That's right. We can't do a Tommy Shaw solo ranking without doing the only other guy in the band who really has a somewhat significant solo catalog, and that's Mr. Dennis DeYoung. I know JY's got a couple of them too, but Dennis has. So here's the deal, everybody. So he's got really 8 solo records, but one of them is like his renditions of like Broadway show tunes. We're not doing that one. No. The other one is his Hunchback of Notre Dame, kind of like whatever you want to call that. We're not doing that either. So we're basically going with the pop and rock albums. So we got 6 in total, and we're going to rank them as we like them. Grant and I have already discussed off camera that our rankings might be very, very different today.
Yeah.
But we don't know that because we haven't compared lists. So
we haven't compared lists. We're just going to let it rip and see where it goes. And really, I must say, I kind of drank that Kool-Aid back in the day. You remember when Tommy and JY, they had the behind the music and they just totally beat up Dennis DeYoung. Well, you have to admit, towards the end of Styx's career, I'm just talking the A&M stuff, it got pretty sappy. And it kind of was a deterrent because I was the rock and roll guy, Tommy Shaw, James Young. And I really never kind of looked at the catalog. Okay, I had Desert Moon. Okay, but the rest of it, I didn't pay attention to it. And that's what I like doing these shows. And I've talked to you about this, Pete, is looking at these catalogs, especially these catalogs that I kind of neglected, the catalogs I didn't pay attention to. Yeah, of course I knew Dennis, loved Dennis. But I never went down the road. So a lot of these records we're going to talk about are my first time really diving into them. So I love these discussions. It's very exciting. Hopefully we can turn on some people out there. But that's all it's about.
That's
so
what it's
this
all
is going to
about.
be fun.
And before we get started here, I do want to preface, because I know it's bound to happen. This is not about Dennis versus the rest of the guys.
No.
And that there's, we're looking at this catalog as is what it is, right? This is, because I know every time we discuss Styx on this channel, it becomes this Dennis versus Tommy and JY, Dennis versus Styx type of thing. There is no Styx without Dennis, and Dennis did this and whatever. We don't care. We're discussing these albums on their own merits, apart from the band Styx. And yes, everything Grant said is absolutely correct. Towards the end there in the 80s, early 90s, I mean, Dennis was getting into different type stuff.
Yeah.
And taking that band in different directions. And maybe when you look back on it, had he started doing solo albums a little bit earlier, maybe he would have saved that type of stuff for the solo records. There's a lot of that type of stuff on these solo albums. And leave the Styx type stuff to Styx, right? But that, again, that's an argument for another day.
Right.
And it really is not all that relevant here.
But you have to admit, Pete, he's good at that kind of stuff.
He's very good at it. He's great at it. Whether
and he took Styx.
Is the argument, right?
He took Styx to the next level. Okay, I have to hand it to him. He made him a lot of money. Let's be honest. And it is what it is. I love all that Styx stuff. Don't get me wrong. And we are, exactly what you said. We're not out to beat up on anybody. We're looking at the catalog as it is. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, since there's only 6, how do you want to?
You want to go 2 at a time? We'll go 3 trips around?
Yeah, we can do that. That's fine. Okay.
All right. We'll start off with 6 and 5.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know how this works over here on this channel. So, and I must say before I start ranking that a lot of these records, particularly these 80s albums, first album came out in 84 and went to 89. Okay. A lot of these musicians on these records are all the same. A lot of these records really sound very similar. So when I'm looking at the catalog and trying to rank them, really the only thing that I could see that really was different amongst them, production's all pretty much the same, is the songwriting. And now when I'm looking at it, my number 6. Production's okay. This is very 80s, but even though this album came out in 1989, this sounds very early 80s to me. And it's just funny. You would think by 1989 things would have progressed. But again, I'm not beating up Dennis on it. It was the 80s. So I'm going to go with Boom Child is my number 6. Came out February of 89 on MCA. Now, this record didn't do anything at all. And if anybody's been on Conversations...
That album cover, can you guess why?
It looks very new wave.
Yeah.
But it's not new wave.
No.
But if you know anything about MCA, a lot of these bands that get on MCA, it's like... oh no, they're doomed. You know, they're not Steely Dan. It's not Leonard Skinner.
And
so Dennis
Skinner warned everybody years before. Working for MCA, not necessarily the greatest thing in the world to do.
Well, Dennis got signed to MCA, and this record didn't do anything at all. It was a blip. It went out of print like that. All right. So let's look at some tracks real quick. Beneath the Moon opens up the record. I think it's a decent opener. But what I made my notes, Pete, is if this is the best track on the record, because you know, you're going to start out with your best stuff for the most part. Yeah. If this is the best track, we're in trouble.
Yes.
Now, it's an okay song. It's fine. But is it an opening track? Is this the track that's going to bring you in? All right. Next track, The Best Is Yet to Come. This track is it's 1989, but it distinctly sounds like 1982, and I think it's total filler. I mean, come on. Maybe Dennis is tired by then. I don't know. What a Way to Go's the third track. Drum Machines, starts off kind of like Don Henley's Boys of Summer, and it sounds like a track that's suited for a John Hughes film. And I'm just saying, it's just that type of song. You know, there are these songs that they've put in movies, and you go, oh, yeah, that's one of those. That's what this is. I will say, I could keep going on. You kind of get the idea. I just don't think that Dennis was very inspired, maybe. I don't think anybody cared at this point. I don't know how he got signed to MCA. I don't know. This is not a bad album, but it's not as good as what there is later in the catalog or earlier in the catalog. Harry's Hands this is kind of refreshing because we've got Dennis doing a piano thing and I'm going, all right, that's kind of cool. You know, we're talking about the union strikes, talking about the working man. I keep thinking Billy Joel. But I think actually, this is probably my favorite song on the record. I think it's got a good chorus, good guitars. It just sounds more inspired than what the rest of it is. I guess the problem is I just don't think this record sounds very inspired. Boom Child, we got a Boomer Generation X track. I mean, no, that's Boomer Generation X. I'm Generation X, for God's sakes.
Yeah, we are.
But it's more the same. Who Shot Daddy? More Sense. You actually have horns on this track, female vocals on here. I don't know. I listen to this album and it still sounds like Dennis is trying to escape Styx to me. Instead of embracing what he sounds like, it's like he's trying to find things to escape with. And it's just, I don't know. We're going to talk about some more of these records later in the catalog and it'll all come together. So that's my number 6. My number 5. Well, this may surprise some people, but we're going to go with this. I'm going to go with, let me get my prop, and I don't know how you're going to take this, Pete, but I'm going to go with Desert Moon. Okay. This is how I look at it. Again, we're talking this completed after Styx is dissolved. Dennis doesn't want to know he doesn't really know what he's doing. There's really one Styx kind of song on here, and that's probably Desert Moon, and that's kind of like Don't Let It End Part 2. And I must say, that's the 5th track into the album. I mean, it's a wonderful song. Come on. It's a wonderful song. It is phenomenal. I'm surprised it's so far into the set list, but it is a slow song, so I get it. Don't Wait for Heroes leads off the album, and this is an anthem. This has total 80s production, but it's good 80s production. I could see this being on a Styx record, to be quite honest. He's got the guitar player that's been with him throughout the 80s. I think he appeared on some of the later stuff too.
Yeah,
Tom DeZallo. He's good. That guy is real good. A lot of soaring guitars. But with the opening track, I'm in. Please, you've got a duet with Rosemary Butler, who I'm not familiar with. You've got drum machines, kind of like in that Pat Benatar vein. Not taking anything away from Pat Benatar, but just to give you an idea what I'm listening to. Boys Will Be Boys is total 80s. It's not like Styx 80s. It's kind of like Mr. Roboto, if Mr. Roboto took steroids. That's how this track comes across to me. And is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. Now, this track, he does a remake of Jimi Hendrix's Fire. Now, this is where I have a little bit of a problem. If you're Dennis DeYoung, prolific songwriter, look at what you did with Styx. Look at all those hits. In your first solo album, and you're putting on a Hendrix cover, I'm not sure why. Lack of material, I don't know. But it's got a lot of guitars, and I'm just not digging it. It sounds like Dennis is doing a version of Fire targeted at the Las Vegas Strip or something. You may dig that, you might not. I don't know. It just seems like, to me, he's trying to escape Styx. And I can get that. I understood. Look what Tommy Shaw did. His first solo album sounds nothing like his work in Styx. And we talked about that on the show. When I first heard that, I went, what the hell is this? Yeah. Where's Blue Collar Man? Yeah, where's the Rockers? This, though, you have to admit, Desert Moon's a lot more along the lines of Styx than the Tommy Shaw solo catalog. It is. But Suspicious. Now I look at the second half of side 2. And you've got Desert Moon right at the start of side 2. I do believe that's right, isn't it? I think it starts side 2. How do you follow up such a great track? I don't think that side 2's really quite there. There are some decent songs, but Suspicious sounds more suited for Las Vegas. Gravity, you've got more drum machines. Dear Darling, it's a ballad. It's kind of lackluster. I just don't think side 2 really has much to offer. So I think the album, in that regard, kind of fails for me. But man, how can you have Desert Moon? How can you possibly beat that?
Yeah, that's unfortunately a album that's driven on the strength of one song, kind of, for the most part.
I don't know if it's Dennis's fault. I don't know whose fault it is. I don't know his state of mind at that point. I think if this was his first solo album, I expected more. And I think Dennis is one of those artists. I think I'm going to say it right now. I think he got better with age. That might be stepping out on a ledge, but I'm just saying. You wait till we get into this. This is great. And I love Dennis. I'm not beating up on him. I'm just looking at the album as it is. So there you go.
That's all we can do. That's all we can do. All right. Well, my number 6 is also Moonchild.
Okay. So far, so good.
So far, so good. It's the only one that I don't have a copy of. I have all the others. Yeah, I mean, there's like a million people playing on this. He's got a lot of the same cast from the previous 2 albums, and then a lot more. It's total pop AOR oriented.
It is.
I mean, Beneath the Moon, catchy enough. Best Is Yet to Come. It's got a decent amount of energy. What a Way to Go. It's got those trademark Dennis DeYoung hooks. Harry's Hand. Did you say that was your favorite song?
I think that's my favorite because it sounds kind of fresh.
Yeah.
And it deviates from the way the rest of the album sounds. It's like Dennis is really trying to be creative, coming up with something instead of just rolling with the motions.
It's got this grandioseness. Is that even a word, grandioseness?
Yes.
Yeah, it might be my favorite as well. And it's got some really nice keyboards from him. I mean, I miss on some of these solo albums, I miss the more kind of prog rock sounding keyboards that I know he's capable of instead of this crappy 80s synthy stuff, which it doesn't really do a hell of a lot for me. Title track is okay, I guess. It's basically synth pop, not really my cup of tea. Who Shot Daddy, horns and synths. It's kind of bluesy. It's kind of silly. Whatever. Outside Looking In doesn't do anything for me. Won't Go Wasted doesn't do anything for me. And it closes the album with this. It's just like this drab ballad. I don't know. This is one of those albums, and I think half of this catalog is for me, it's very indicative of. It's like there's a couple songs I kind of like, and he's singing great, but a lot of it just doesn't appeal to me at all. Just in what I like and what I want from him. So this to me was an easy number 6. My number 5, I'm going to deviate just slightly from you, and I'm going to go with 1986's Back to the World, his second album, which peaked at number 108 on the Billboard chart. It's a total pop album. But this is the time. That's a pretty memorable song. Great hook. Love the chorus. Warning Shot. I mean, that could be a long lost Survivor song. Very, very much those 80s synths and those kind of power chords. It's okay. But I think this Tom DeZiallo guy is a really good player. I never heard of him outside of this band, so I don't know. Me either. I don't know what else he's done. You got Sax on Call on Me, which is just a completely bland song. I don't really like that a lot at all. Unanswered Prayers, another mid-paced pop ballad. Black Walls got a little guitar on it, good vocals, a lot of female backing vocals on these couple albums, which is kind of weird for me, but whatever. Southbound Ryan, horns, synths, kind of a bluesy rocker. I don't really know if I like Dennis doing kind of bluesy rockers. Not really his thing. I'll Get Lucky, kind of slick. Person to Person is another one of those kind of Survivor, big synths, power chord type of things. Okay. And that maybe might have made a good Styx song in the 80s. I don't know. Overall, not a terrible album. Lots of 80s production cliches, which are on these couple of albums big time. But again, a few good songs and a few stinkers. But he sounds great. And I think he sounds a little more inspired on this album than Boom Child. So go figure. All right. That's my 6 and 5.
That's good. All right, cool. Well, I'm going to follow you with my number 4 is going to be Back to the World, 1986. I wanted to mention that as Dennis keeps going through his catalog, putting out more records, he's selling less records with each album.
Yeah.
Desert Moon got up to 24 on the charts, which is, I think, very respectable.
Yep.
Coming out of Styx, that's good. I don't have a problem with that. And Don't Wait for Heroes reached number 83. Title Cut got to number 10. That's great. But Back to the World didn't fare as well. It only got to number 54 on the charts. And the singles really didn't do that much. So, and like I said, Boom Child didn't do anything. So I don't know. But
another, Grant, I don't want to deviate, but this is another.
No, go.
This is another example of, we've heard the argument from so many people over the years that Dennis was Styx, and he's this, the great front man. He wrote a lot of their hit songs, not all of them, but a lot of them. Great keyboard player, great singer. But yet he goes and does solo albums, and other than like a bit of interest on the first one, really nobody buys any of these things.
No,
so it's almost like, and we've seen that so many times throughout the years where you have these big frontmen, whatever in these bands that people the band can't exist without them. But you would think if people like these singers enough when they go and do a solo record that they would go and support the solo career, but they don't always. It's almost like, well, they're great if they're in the band, but when they're off on their own, I'm not really interested. I don't really understand that. And granted, maybe the material is different because most of this stuff is not very Styx-like, at least the early stuff.
Not the early stuff.
I get that, but I just, it always makes me laugh when you get these people who make these arguments. We're going back to the whole Dennis versus Styx thing. It's like, the people who are like, no, there is no Styx without Dennis DeYoung. Well, there isn't even a Dennis solo career because you're not supporting him there either. You're not going to support Styx without him, but you're also not going to support him as a solo artist. I don't understand that.
I don't understand it either.
Right? That makes absolutely no sense to me. And like you said, most of these albums, other than the first album, were pretty much ignored for the most part. From a mass perspective, I know the hardcore fans obviously have them and love them, but it just boggles my mind sometimes. Anyway, didn't mean to deviate.
No, that's what it's about. We're just here for having a discussion.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, like I said, my number 4 is Back to the World. This is the Time is another great track along with Desert Moon. I think it's not as great as Desert Moon, but it's good. It was in I think it was in some movie, if I remember right. Karate Kid, Karate Kid 2.
A cinema classic.
A cinema classic. But it got up to 93. I think it's okay. It starts off okay. I don't have a problem. Warning Shot, another great track. Could have been on Paradise Theater. I think it would have fit in there. It's much more Styx-like, I have to admit. I swear to God, what's his name? Now I can't remember his name, the guitar player. Tom. Sounds like he's playing James Young licks to me.
He's got that energetic style and that big tone. Yeah, he's the JY guy they got. And, it's really funny. I don't know if you've had a chance to see any of Dennis DeYoung's solo tours in more recent years. But he went out and basically put together a band that looked and sounded and played like the guys in Styx. So he has had a Jimmy something and August Zadra, the two guitar players. And Jimmy guy looks and plays like like JY, and August Zadra looks and plays like and sings like Tommy Shaw. So he went and got these guys that so I think he was kind of doing with this Tom dude also early on.
But he's great. I love what he brings. Licks are great, thought out, wonderful. All Warning Shot needs for me is some Tommy background vocals, and I'm in. So far, I like the first 2 tracks. Call me crazy, but I do. Call Me is a ballad. You've got the Fender Rhodes. You've got the sax. Reminds me of Babe. It's a nice ballad. This should have been a hit, even though it wasn't. Even though, we gave it a shot. Really didn't. I'm still in. Pete, there's 3 in a row for me. Black Wall. Tom soaring guitars again. He's a great player. Track sounds like a bit of a rocking version of Desert Moon. At least the chord progression kind of reminds me of Desert Moon. And it's got kind of like Styx-like background vocals. So far, I'm still good. But then again, it's side 2 that really starts falling apart for me. Southbound Ryan, you got the blues harp thing, Las Vegas style horns, drum machines. No, I'm not into it. But I'll get lucky. There's something about this song that in my mind, it reminds me of something else, and I can't think of what it is. It's the keyboard riff. It's something else, but I can't remember what it is. But again, this is another one of those songs that I wrote on my notes. I said, sounds like it's written for an 80s movie soundtrack. It would fit right in.
He was into that type of stuff.
He'd be perfect for it. You're talking about the working man working his fingers to the bone. He's a working man for a John Hughes film. I swear to God. It's okay. Yeah. Person to person. Hell, I went through the whole record. Person to person. This and Desert Moon 10. Okay. All I wrote is that Person to Person sounds like Flashdance to me. I don't really dig side 2 of this record at all. But I don't know. I like this better. The only reason I like this better than Desert Moon is that this seems more cohesive. And I think the songs more or less complement each other. Sequencing's nice. There's nothing jarring or weird coming out. They're just songs. And it just kind of flows better. It's fine. I'm going to go with that. That's my, number 4.
Yeah, I think, and again, this is probably coming across in our descriptions of these 3 albums, right? The bottom 3. Mm-hmm. I think if you take like the best tracks off of these 3 albums and make one album,
great record,
it's a damn good album.
Yeah, and they'd all fit. Like I said, these 3 albums all sound they all sound the same.
Me too.
And that it is what it is. It is what it is. All right. So my number 3. God, we're at number 3 already. All right.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Now we're getting to the good stuff, ladies and gentlemen, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Because I might as well say this now. Dennis, after he took his break, basically gave up music, but I'm not exactly sure how this album came about. I know it came out in Canada in 2007 and got released in the United States in 2009. And I'm going to go with 100 Years From Now. And I don't know the story of it. Do you happen to know the story behind this?
No.
because I would have thought he'd given up by now, but maybe not. But we get another quote unquote pop record from Dennis. There's the back. I've got the US version of this. Canada, they got a little bit of a lineup change, or actually we did, because this record came out in Canada first. We got a lineup change. I had. Whoa, something's talking. I have not heard the Canadian version or those tracks, so I only can speak from the US pressing.
I'm assuming mine is, I don't know what pressing is.
Well, Respect Me was removed, and tracks Private Jones and There Was a Time were added.
I have both of those, so I must have the later one. So
okay, well, we'll just talk about that because I can't talk about the Canadian one, so there you go. All I'm going to say is, wow, what a record. Because it hits hard, it's heavy, there's guitars, there's arena rock, there are ballads. This is where Dennis, I think, is embracing his Styx-ness, if that's a word. And I think Dennis is being Dennis. And when I listen to this, I'm going, wow, how much did Dennis really add to Styx? I mean, there's a lot of this that really sounds very Styx oriented. And after this time period, I think Dennis is it's going to be hard. His vocals sound great. The thing with this record, as opposed to the other records, is that I don't hear Dennis really going out there trying to get a hit. It doesn't sound forced. It's just like, here's a collection of songs. We're going to do them the best that we can and present it to the audience. Hope they embrace it. It comes off as a real genuine album to me because it just seems like it's just pure Dennis. So with that speech, all right, 100 years from now, it's creative. You got a crackling record. You got accordion, like when he played it when he was a kid. Then it gets heavy. This record is very political to some degree. He's worried about the state of our planet. He's worried about our future. He's worried about how our children will live. I get it. So that's basically what the whole... Is this a concept album? Because it kind of follows that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Whether it's a concept album or just I'm making a statement kind of an album.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
This time next year, Time Can Heal Your Wounds. This is anthemic. I've noticed on these later records is that Dennis is, as an anthem songwriter, he is delivering some anthems. And this, in my ear, sounds like an anthem. And he's trying to be, this time next year, you could be uplifted. You could be, flying high. You've got scorching guitar solos. I love it. I'm in. Rain is the next track, and it really sounds like Styx. I don't know who's the singer that sounds like James Young, but I swear to God, James Young is singing on this track, but he's not on it.
Nope.
And I swear to God, Tommy's singing on it, but he's not on it. And this is yet another song. It's like an anthem. It's like, we will rock you.
I'm the guy who will come sail away. Remember me? I'm back.
He's back. Yeah. And I'm sitting here listening to this and I'm going, yes. Crossing the Rubicon, I went, oh my God, Dennis sounds so great. He's very convincing. He's almost pleading like a man suffering because you can feel the emotion in his voice. This guy is feeling his lyrics. He is feeling these songs. And I'm going, wow, is this like a Christian rock song? I don't know. Well, how old's Dennis now? He might be thinking about stuff like that. But the guitars are really hitting hard. The guitars are all over this album. And it's just it's heavy guitar pretty much. Think of old Styx. This doesn't sound like Styx. It sounds like Dennis, but Dennis does sound like Styx, if that makes sense. Save Me. Oh, I already talked about that. Or was that Rubicon? I think basically the same kind of thing. I wrote, is this Christian rock too? Could be. I Don't Believe in Anything. Kind of, when it started out, I kind of thought it was Shaw Blades, but it's got Dennis Down on the Bayou. And it just seems like Dennis has lost hope in humanity, people, everything on this record. But there's nothing like Babe on here. But I wrote in my notes, I went, man, I still hear JY on here. Where is JY?
He's lurking somewhere.
So anyway, Dennis eventually hits military, Private Jones. We're talking military stuff. Great delivery. It rocks hard. Oh my God, this song rocks hard. Man. I believe in you. You can tell by listening to this that Dennis does believe in love. That's probably the only thing he believes in. It's one of the more uplifting. Let's go with that. One more of the uplifting tracks on this record. Because the other was, just kind of, I'm not saying it's not uplifting, but the subject matter doesn't rise to the surface. Makes you feel good about yourself. I don't know. It's more of the same. He does do a nice track for his wife called Breathe Again, which is a tribute to his wife, Suzanne. Power ballad territory here. It's great. There was another power ballad with Styx background vocals. Man, it's another anthem. There are 3 anthems on this album. And then Forgiveness, something about repent your sins and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. Sounds like JY again. I mean, Dennis is back. He sounds rejuvenated. He sounds strong. The material's good. And I got a chuckle out of the last track, Turn Off CNN, because, yeah, everybody, we probably should turn off any of those channels just to get away from it.
People who sit and watch news all day long, it's like, go live life.
Go play a Dennis DeYoung album. Yeah. But it does have smoking guitar. I will mention that the guitar on this album cooks.
Yep.
And I think it's great. Dennis is back. I don't know. So there you go.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We really are very similar in our rankings here. We just have a couple off here and there, but basically it's the top 3 and the bottom 3 are pretty much identical. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So my number 4 is going to be Desert Moon. Yeah. I mean, and I think pretty sure I read that this is the biggest seller of any Styx member solo album. So
yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, Dennis has it up on Tommy by a little bit. This number 24 on the Billboard charts. Mm-hmm. I mean, Don't Wait for Heroes, really good, memorable rock song. I think that would have made a pretty good Styx song. Please is pretty good. I don't know who this Rosemary Butler is either, but she sounds good. I think that
sounds good.
He's injecting female backing vocals on some of these songs, on some of these early albums, as a way to kind of give people that familiar, rich vocal perspective that we always have on the Styx albums. It doesn't always work, but whatever. I don't like Boys Will Be Boys at all. I think that's just terrible synth pop. Again, the whole thing with Fire of him doing this, adding this kind of like Broadway style vocals on like a bluesy rock song. It doesn't really work for me.
I don't like it.
Okay. I mean, Desert Moon, great song. Great song. Suspicious, you mentioned Suspicious before. That sounds like the second half falls off the cliff. That sounds like him trying to be Steely Dan, but it doesn't quite hit the mark of a Steely Dan. Gravity is kind of like this 10cc sort of thing. Dear Darling, I think is dreadful. I don't like it at all. So again, another one of those albums that has some good moments, but it's not consistent for me from start to finish. And
well, what about your thoughts on Fire?
It's okay. That's, like I said, that's like Dennis doing like kind of like a Broadway style vocal over like a bluesy rock song. That's pretty good.
All right.
Kind of heavy.
Yeah, I just think that he could have come up with something else. That's all.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Yeah. I honestly think take 3 or 4 songs off of this, 3 or 4 songs off of Back to the World, and 3 or 4 songs, or maybe just 3 off of that other one, and then you've got a really strong Dennis DeYoung solo record. But I think all 3 on their own, not great. They're not awful, but they're not great. And I think there's a huge gulf between these 3 that I just talked about and the next 3. And we both are on the same page with that. There's just big difference in the catalog.
It's big difference.
So my number 1, 2, and 3 could change. I like them all, quite well. And but I'm going to go with 26 East Volume 1.
Oh,
2020 is my number 3. Could be my number 2. I don't know. It's like I said, these three are really good. This is what I want from Dennis DeYoung. So this is the
Yeah.
first of a 2-part concept that he did like really late for Frontiers Records. Strange place to find them, but really not, because they always grab up a lot of these like, veteran, legendary rock bands and whatnot and throw them on their label. I think East of Midnight is a terrific opener. Very Styx-like, big guitars, twin leads, roaring keyboards from Dennis, anthemic chorus, total winner. Might be one of my favorite songs on all of these albums. Really good. With all due respect, fun hard rocker, big riffs, big vocal harmonies, a Kingdom Ablaze. It's got pop. It's got lots of prog, cool keyboards, layers of guitars, nicely done vocals. Another great song. Because that's what's great about Dennis DeYoung. He embraces his pop leanings with hard rock and prog. That's what always made Styx so good. That's why this song is so good.
I want to make a comment, though, before you go on.
Sure.
The fact that we've got Dennis doing some prog, and these later Frontiers albums have prog on them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And isn't that like, when you hear that, don't you just go, oh. I mean, it's like I love it when Dennis does it. And we haven't had it for so long, Pete.
No.
It's so refreshing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And that's why when this album came out,
I
mean, those first 3 songs, I'm like, God, this is as good or better than anything he's ever done in his solo catalog. And it's like, this is what I wanted from him. See, for me, the reason why I think this one sits at number 3 and not a little higher is because I think the second half of the album is not quite as good as the beginning, but it's still pretty good. Like, You, My Love. I mean, it's like, it's like he had to throw kind of like babe-like ballads on here. It's not terrible, but to me, it breaks the momentum of the first 3 tracks.
But think about this. You have to give him this. He's 72 years old.
I know.
And listen to how great he sounds.
Oh, he does sound amazing. He does sound great. I give him that.
Oh.
He sounds really good. Run for the Roses, great melodic rock, killer chorus, nice piano, big heavy riffs. Love that. Dream the Dream, or Damn the Dream, sorry. That's quirky and fun. That could have been a Styx song, I think.
That's what I wrote down too.
Yeah. Unbroken is good, but I feel like I've kind of heard that from him before. There's like melodies there that I'm like, they sound very familiar. It's like, it's okay. But again, it's kind of like that bluesy kind of thing, whatever. The Promise of This Land, to me, is like the second coming of Come Sail Away.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Really good. And then you got To the Good Old Days, which is a duet with Julian Lennon. I don't really care about that all that much.
Oh, see, I think that I like it. I think it's kind of refreshing.
I've never liked it. A lot of people really enjoy that. It just didn't do much for me. Yeah. And then I think AD 2020 brings it to this kind of Paradise Theater close, which I think is really good. I think it's a very solid record. There's some great material on here. For me, there's a couple clunkers, but overall, this is a very, very strong album, as I think all 3 of the albums in our top 3 are. So, yeah, it could be my number 2. I just think another one is clearly the number 1 for me, and the other one and this one kind of wrestled back and forth. So, curious to hear your top 2. Well, obviously, I know which top 2 you have, but I'm curious to see what your order.
Which order?
Yeah.
So did you just do both?
Yes.
Golly, I'm all worked up. I get on these shows with you, Pete, and I get on I don't know. I love talking music. That's all. That's all it's about. And I just let it go, baby. We just let it go. All right. Now, obviously, you know which are my top 2.
Yep.
And this is one of the things I really had a problem with, because I think they could fluctuate. Both of them are equal. I look at both of these records as being equally strong, to be quite honest. But if I have to pick one, all right, I'll have to pick one then. I went with, for my number 2, I went with, let me get my prop ready because I was all on a tangent. I went with 26th Volume 2. Now, obvious, and there's a reason. For one, I think that they thought that all the best material was for number 1. I'm not sure if they totally thought that number 2 was ever going to come out, or was that an afterthought? I don't remember what he said in your interview, if he ever talked about it.
I thought he said they originally thought about doing a double album, but then decided to break it up in 2. I could have sworn that's what he said.
both of these, if I'm really going to nitpick, it's such a minute.
Oh yeah.
Both of them are seriously.
And by the way, this is the current, well, the then current band. So
Yeah.
I mentioned the two guitar players. So Jimmy Levy is the JY guy, and August is the Tommy Shaw guy. So they're all there. They're on these albums.
So by the time we get to Frontiers, as we know, Frontiers pretty much just lets these artists do what they do. They just turn the record in. And, you know, on this album, he's been working with Jim Peterick, who was in Survivor, who worked with 38 Special, who's worked countless people. Terrific songwriter. He's Magic Touch. He's a buddy of Dennis's, and the magic touch is all over this record. Like I said, my number one and number two could just interchange. Hello, Goodbye, a Beatles tribute, clock full of Beatle-type riffs. Dennis is having fun. Jim Peterick's having fun. Everybody's having fun on this track. It's a good feeling track to open up the record. Isn't anything real serious? No, but you can feel that everybody is enjoying these sessions. It's group unity. It's a great track. Great way to open this record. It's uplifting, not anything negative or anything. Last of the Living, I went, oh my God, my goodness, does this sound like Styx? And I went, the guitar sound on this. Styx, baby, it's Styx. Yep. Last Guitar Hero with Tom Morello. Well, you got Tom Morello on a song, and the only thing I can say is, well, this is going to rock. And this would have been a great Styx track had it been on a Styx album. Yep. But I don't mind Tom Morello. He's a bit political, but he's on here and he's playing guitar and he sounds great. You're Saving Grace. I feel like the angels are coming down from heaven when I hear this song. He encapsulates that. It feels like that. I just have to laugh. And the chorus on here is phenomenal. Top notch. It's top notch. Proof of Heaven's the next track. See, we get a lot of like, You're Saving Grace, Proof of Heaven. I don't know if Dennis is looking to the future or not, but it sounds like it. Proof of Heaven. This, to me, sounds a bit like a super tramp track. And then it turns into a Styx epic. I thought, is this something off of Pieces of Eight? Yeah. Could have fit on Pieces of Eight, Pete. Just saying. Made for Each Other, another wonderful ballad. I'm in. I am totally in on this record because all these songs, the songwriting is top notch. You know, Dennis, for being at his age, vocals, incredible. He hasn't lost anything. Track 7, There's No Turning Back. I thought, is this Crystal Ball? Kinda. Then it comes in with the heavy guitar and the synths. And then you have, I'm assuming it's Dennis, playing the synth solo during the end, and I'm going,
wow.
What is this, 1978? I like it. Track 8, Saint Quarantine. I had a laugh at that one. Saint Quarantine's this patron saint of broken dreams. I just thought it was funny. Well, you know, that quarantine, that changed a lot of people's lives. Yeah, it did. And then we get to, looking at our time. Oh, we're just going to town. The next track number 9, Little Did We Know. We've got prog. We had prog on the other record. We've got some prog here. But I think we've even upped the prog on this record. It's great. I wish I could complain about it. All I can say at this point is that anyone, if you have not checked these records out, do yourself a favor. If you like Styx, get these records. Yep. Always Time, we got another ballad. Kind of reminds me of Beautiful Boy by John Lennon. You've got that, it's very majestic. It's got that Fender Rhodes sound, kind of like Babe, but it's not like Babe. It's different. Isle of Misanthrope. What can I say? Yeah. I don't even know what to say. Prague, ladies and gentlemen. Prague. I hear JY on this. The keyboard sounds. This song reminds me of something off the Wooden Nickel era. Or maybe Styx Equinox. Oh, exactly. You've got the swirling keys. You've got... Did I mention Sweet Madam Blue? No, but I am. Yeah. This obviously is my favorite track on the record.
Yeah, it's a great one.
So think Wooden Nickel era Styx and Equinox. I'll leave it at that. I'm leaving it at that. And then the grand finale, you know, life really is a grand illusion. That's all I need to say right there. Another way to end this record, phenomenal. See, now I'm looking at this. This probably should be my number one. But I just said they could... they're both equally as good. I just have to put them somewhere. So anyway, so my number one, we're going to go 26 ETH Volume 1. And that's got the trains on it. That was Dennis's... By the way, that's where Dennis grew up, was on 26 East in Chicago.
Right. In Chicago.
So both of these records sound great. East of Midnight, like you said, boy, this is Styx-like. This East of Midnight opens the album. It is phenomenal. The organ is killer. And this is where I wrote my notes, because it's very Styx-like. And I'm going, you know, Dennis not trying to do Styx on those previous records. You can kind of tell. But this record does not sound forced. This is just Dennis being Dennis. And then you listen to it and go, my God, he really had a lot to do with that Styx sound. That's the way I hear it. And I wrote on here, this is almost Wooden Nickel Styx on this track. I would never have thought, Pete, we would ever get anything like this.
Yeah.
I'm in. Slide guitar, analog synths, whatever's going on here. Please give us some more, and we do get that one on the next record. With all due respect, we have Dennis still having issues with the modern world and people, you know, talking heads on TV. It's catchy, and he does have a point. Blaring guitars, and by the way, there are a lot of assholes in the world. And by the way, get off my lawn.
Please do.
Please get off my lawn.
Now.
But it's a great track. When I first heard it, I was going, oh, come on, Dennis. But no, you know, as I keep hearing it and playing it over and over, I'm going, I like it. And yeah, and get off my lawn. Kingdom of Blaze, Prague. I thought this was a ghost track when it started out, but you got those Styx vocals. And I'm going to throw it out. Is this more Styx than Mission or Crash? I don't know. I like it. I love it. You mentioned You're My Love. I think it's a good ballad. And when I think of Dennis being 72 years old doing this record, and he can pull it off. Pull it off. Wonderful. Run for the Roses, another power ballad, majestic sounding. Guitars kick in the second half like it's kind of like Queen to me, though it's nothing like Queen, but it just reminds me of Queen. The slide guitar riff, it all works. This record works. The whole thing works. Damn That Dream, Styx territory again. Like I said, I keep bringing up Styx. I keep bringing up Tommy and JY. But Damn That Dream reminds me of Grand Illusion or Crystal Ball. Please do yourself a favor. Go check these albums out if you haven't. Unbroken, you weren't that crazy about it, but it is another anthem, and Dennis sounds good. I'll give you that. But I could keep going. Promised Land's great. The whole damn thing's great, Pete. I have nothing to complain about. And to end it with AD 2020, I'm in. I love it. So there you go.
Yeah, the way the album ends is almost like, you know, part 2 is coming. Right.
And I hate to be a big fanboy, but I like Dennis, but I love Dennis now. I've loved Dennis back, you know, Crystal Ball, Grand Illusion, you know, kind of lost me a bit there on Kilroy. But man, when you hear this later catalog, and for a legacy artist this far into their career, putting out something like this.
Yeah, and that's honestly, I remember saying this when both of these albums came out. It's like here you have, all right, granted, the two camps are not meeting together to do stuff. It is what it is, right? We don't have Dennis in Styx anymore. So instead of crying about it and worrying about like taking sides as fans, we should just embrace the fact that we have two really strong Dennis DeYoung solo records that remind us of Kiss. And we have two recent really strong Styx albums that remind us of Styx, that sound like Styx.
It's a win-win. It's a win-win-win.
Because
win,
you put
win, win, win.
Together, you put the Mission, Crash of the Crown, and 26 Eats Volume 1 and 2. Those are 4 really strong albums.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, yeah, so we don't have them all together anymore. Yeah, I get it. But I don't think as a fan of the Styx band, historically, we really don't have much to complain about at this point. Other than the fact that, yeah, we would love to see them all together one more time at least. I don't think it's going to happen. But,
No.
you know, whatever. All right. So my number 2, again, it's splitting hairs here on the top 3, but I'm going to go with 100 Years From Now. I think I'm just so impressed that this, all those years later, was such a return to form, to doing stuff that we really wanted from him. And I think that's why I have kind of a little, you know, strong feelings about this one. I think he's returning to his Styx roots here. I mean, the opening title track is just a monster. I mean, it's atmospheric, heavy guitars, lots of majestic keys, great vocals. This time next year, I think you mentioned, could have come off of Paradise Theater, 100%. Rain is catchy. Save Me, another, you know, kind of like trying for a hit, but the melodies is only Dennis can kind of come up with.
Yep.
Breathe Again. I'm not as crazy about that one. That's okay. But Crossing the Rubicon, it's terrific. It's moody. It's majestic. I think it would have sounded right on point had it been on Crystal Ball or Equinox or any of those early albums. Great keyboards. Respect Me is really good. You know, there's some cheese on here. You know, Turn Off CNN to me is just cheesy, but whatever. Private Jones, kind of silly, but it rocks hard. And I'm not crazy about There Was a Time, but I think there's just some great songs on here that I really like a lot that kind of elevated it to number 2 for me. I think he sounds amazing on here. And my number 1 is going to be Volume 2 of 26 East. Hello Goodbye is tons of fun. Right. Basically, he's telling us how he grew up loving the Beatles and what it was like to be a music fan. I mean, these songs tell stories. That's what I really like them. And as I know from personal experience, Dennis DeYoung is a great storyteller. So basically, he's just telling you what it was like to be his age, growing up when the Beatles were first hitting, falling in love with them, and what a different time it was to be a music fan. And if you listen to the lyrics, he's telling you all this stuff. It's not like today, right? It's very, very cool. Land of the Living, big, boisterous, fun rock and roll. The Last Guitar Hero with Tom Morello, another really good rocker. I mean, and the chorus just screams Styx. I just hear Styx all over that. Not that big on Your Saving Grace, but it's got a nice chorus. You know, he does these kind of ballady things great. They're not always my favorites on the album, but whatever. Proof of Heaven, great Styx style rocker. Love that. No Turning Back, moody song, kick-ass synth solo. Holy cow. Just takes you back to like the mid-late 70s. I mean, I've seen him live I saw him on the last tour he did with his solo band, and this guy still can play keyboards like it's nobody's business.
Oh.
So good. And I love There's No Turning Back. That's just such a good song. And it just builds and builds and builds. And then, of course, you know, there's other decent tracks here, Saint Quarantine, whatever, little did we know. But the Isle of Misanthrope is just terrific. I mean, that's the big prog epic here. We knew he still had it in him. He just absolutely delivers. Might be the best song in this entire catalog. I don't know. And then, you know, the grand finale brings back, you know, Superstars and Grand Illusions and all that kind of stuff. And basically because we now know he has come out and said that this is his last album. And what a great last song to kind of cap a great career, bringing back some of those familiar melodies and things from those classic Styx albums of the 70s. I think it was a great way to kind of end the album. But, you know, you are 100% right, I think for how many people who are watching this never heard either one of these. You owe it to yourselves. Get them before they're out of print. They may be out of print already because I know that Frontiers doesn't print up a lot of these CDs. Go and grab 26 East Volume 1 and 2 if you haven't already because they're really good.
I think Volume 2 might still be in print, but I think Volume 1's out of print. You gotta.
It probably is.
It's well, you can pick it up. It's on eBay and Discogs you can get it, but I'm pretty sure it's out of print.
Yeah.
But both might be. If And for anybody watching this, please do yourself a favor. Pete and I wouldn't steer you wrong.
No.
And if you're a Styx fan, it is a must.
Yeah. It's a no-brainer.
No-brainer.
I would say there's more Styx type material on both of our top threes than on any Tommy Shaw solo album. And I love Tommy.
I love Tommy.
Yeah.
We know I love Tommy.
But you're not getting any Styx feels on Tommy's albums.
No, but when I got the Styx feel from listening to this, I just was like,
oh, there it is.
But Pete, the thing that really got me, the Isle and Misanthrope, the prog that's on here.
Yeah.
That song
I'm
like speechless.
Perfectly on Equinox, Crystal Ball, Grand Illusion, or Pieces of Eight. Would have fit perfectly on any of those albums.
It is phenomenal. Yeah. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
I know I'm all geeky about it, but man, I look at Dennis in a totally different. Like I said, I didn't have a problem with Dennis, really. You know, yeah, we were getting the hits and all that, but man, these later records, what a wonderful artist, great vocalist.
Yeah, sure.
A true talent. True talent.
So there you have it, everybody. We've ranked the 6. Again, if you're watching and you like his kind of like Broadway album and like the Hunchback album, feel free to throw those in there as well. That's not really, doesn't really mix with all these, so that's why we omitted them. But certainly rank these 6 as you like them down in the comments below, and it'll be interesting to see what people come up with. And we'll see you next time here on Ranking the Albums. In fact, next week, we got a big one. Rick Labante's joining me. We're going to rank the Paul McCartney solo albums. It's a massive undertaking, so that's coming up soon. And Grant and I have in our little list to do in the coming weeks. We've got the likes of Mark Farner solo. We've got Black Oak, Arkansas. We've got Joni Mitchell. Am I missing anything else, Grant?
Well, someone had brought up for us to do the Little River Band, and I think we probably could. I think we could swing that.
It was one other. I think Poco, was another one that people.
Well, we probably could do Poco.
Yeah.
There's a lot coming up, more than that'll keep me really busy. But that's good. I'm already busy.
That's good. You got any programming coming up?
Well, I will say this: the show, because I was talking to you before, the show that I had to cancel last night, I'm going to record on Friday. We are DC Toontime and Rand are coming on my show, and we're looking at the first 2 albums from Crack the Sky. So we're going to do I don't want to say we're doing an album battle. I kind of rather look at the Crack the Sky catalog as records that, we can look at 2 records. Did the second album kind of avoid the sophomore slump? Because we know the sophomore slump exists. Yeah. And we're just going to look at those first 2 Crack the Sky albums, because that is another band that no one talks about so much. And we try to talk about that stuff in the warehouse. The stuff no one talks about. So that's coming up. And of course, next week we will be doing the Contrarians live chat on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. We will be back on track. Normally we would have done it on a Wednesday, but we did it on Tuesday this week because, 4th of July holiday and all that. So we thought we'd bump it up. Probably shocked everybody because everybody's used to Wednesday. But that'll be coming up.
Yeah. Sometimes these holidays fall in strange times here in the States, and we got to kind of juggle our schedule around it. So, I know.
But there's always something coming up in the warehouse and on the Contrarians. So
there you go. Thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together all the damn time. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And also, hit that like button, please. Help us out just a little bit because YouTube likes that. And we'll see you next time here on Ranking the Albums. For Grant, Arthur, I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And we'll see you next Sunday here. Paul McCartney. Tune in then.
Take care. Bye. See ya.